There are moments in life when silence is the loudest answer, and calmness is the sharpest weapon. One evening, I watched a man in a crowded cafe get insulted for no reason. The other person shouted, cursed, tried to provoke him. But the man didn't react. He just sipped his tea, smiled slightly, and kept looking out the window. It wasn't weakness. It was strength. He had the power to respond, but he chose not to. And that choice changed everything. The person who attacked him looked foolish while he remained in control. I couldn't stop thinking about it for days. Most of us believe reacting instantly shows confidence. Someone insults you, you reply. Someone provokes you, you fight back. But in reality, quick reactions often come from ego, not wisdom. And ego loves to destroy us quietly. The truth is, you can't control what people say or do. You can only control your own actions. If you give away your peace every time someone pushes you, you become their puppet. They pull the string, and you dance. That's not freedom. Not reacting doesn't mean you agree. It means you choose when and how to respond. It means you're not controlled by your emotions. This is power. Because the calmer you are, the more clearly you see the truth of any situation. Think about it. How many fights, regrets, and broken relationships come from things said in the heat of the moment? A single sentence can burn years of trust. But if you pause, you give yourself a chance to choose better words. Silence is uncomfortable for many. That's why it's so effective. When you don't react, the other person has to face their own emotions without your help. Often, they reveal more than they planned. Sometimes, they even calm down first. There's a saying, you can't stop a bird from flying over your head, but you can stop it from building a nest in your hair. You can't stop provocation, but you can stop it from living inside your mind. That's the art of not reacting. I began practicing this skill in small ways. When someone cut in line at the store, I stayed quiet. When a driver honked for no reason, I didn't look back. At first, my ego screamed, defend yourself. But I learned to breathe instead. Something magical happened. I felt lighter. I stopped carrying other people's anger home with me. My mind became clearer. Problems seemed smaller. And I realized, most battles don't need to be fought at all. They fade on their own. The man in the cafe probably didn't even know he taught me this lesson. But he did. That evening, he proved that reacting is easy, but staying calm is hard and far more powerful. It's a quiet kind of victory. From that day, I promised myself one thing. I will not give my peace to anyone for free. If they want to fight, let them fight with themselves. My energy is too precious to be wasted on noise. A few weeks later, I faced my first real test. At work, a colleague blamed me for a mistake I didn't make. His voice was loud, his tone sharp. Everyone turned to watch. I felt my chest tighten, my hands curl into fists. I wanted to defend myself immediately, to throw the truth back at him. But I remembered the cafe, the man with the tea, the silence that won. So I looked at him, then calmly asked, "Are you sure about that?" and waited. The room went quiet. My question hung in the air like a mirror in front of him. His voice softened. He repeated his accusation, but now it sounded less certain. The tension began to shift. People looked at him, not me. That's when I understood. Not reacting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing less, but with purpose. One calm sentence can have more power than 100 angry ones. It can make the truth louder without raising your voice. Emotions are like waves. If you stand still, they pass. If you fight them, they pull you under. That day, I let the wave pass. After the meeting, my colleague came to me privately and admitted he was wrong. No drama, no war. Most people believe power is about speaking more, moving faster, acting first. But true power often comes from restraint. The lion doesn't roar at every sound in the jungle. It chooses when to show its strength. That's why it's respected. I began noticing how people who react less are respected more. They are trusted with bigger responsibilities. Why? Because they are seen as stable, not easily shaken. In a world full of noise, calmness is rare and valuable. It's not easy, though. Silence can feel like weakness at first. Your mind wants to fight. Your pride wants to win. But winning every small battle is not victory. Sometimes, the real victory is walking away without a single scratch. I learned to ask myself one question before responding. Will this matter in a week? If the answer is no, I save my breath. Life becomes lighter when you stop turning every spark into a fire. Most sparks die if you ignore them. The more I practiced, the more control I gained. Not just over situations, but over myself. I realized the person I needed to master wasn't the one yelling at me. It was the one inside me who wanted to yell back. And that's the real power of not reacting. It's not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. When you own your emotions, no one else can. You stop being a puppet and start being the one holding the strings. One morning on the subway, a man accidentally stepped on my foot. I looked up, ready to tell him off, but before I could speak, he snapped, "Watch where you're standing." My first instinct was to reply with the same sharpness. But I caught myself. I thought, if I react now, what will it give me? Will it fix anything? So instead, I took a slow breath and simply said, "It's okay." His eyes widened for a moment. Then he turned away, quiet. That ride taught me something important. Not reacting can break the cycle of anger. If one person drops the rope in a tug of war, the game ends. You don't always need to pull harder. Sometimes, you just need to let go. I started to notice how my energy lasted longer when I didn't waste it on pointless conflicts. At the end of the day, I felt less tired. My mind was lighter, my thoughts clearer. I had more space for what truly mattered. There's a saying, don't attend every argument you're invited to. Life constantly sends you invitations, in traffic, at work, at home. The more invitations you decline, the more time you have to enjoy your own peace. Of course, some people see calmness as a weakness they can exploit. But they're wrong. Choosing peace is not surrender, it's strategy. A warrior doesn't fight every battle, only the ones worth winning. And most are not worth it. I also learned that people often reveal themselves when you stay silent. Without your reaction to focus on, they keep talking and show their true intentions. You don't have to expose them, they expose themselves. Silence also gives you time to see the bigger picture. Reacting fast narrows your vision to the moment. Pausing lets you see beyond it, the history, the patterns, the real reason behind someone's words or actions. It wasn't easy to unlearn the habit of reacting. It took daily practice. Sometimes I failed and reacted too quickly. But each time, I reminded myself, mistakes are part of mastery. What matters is returning to calm faster than before. And slowly, something changed inside me. I began to feel untouchable. Not because problems disappeared, but because they no longer had the power to control me. I was learning the rarest skill of all, emotional independence. The man on the subway probably forgot me in minutes. But I remembered him. Not because of what he said, but because of what I didn't say. And that silence became another brick in the wall of my self-control. One rainy afternoon, I sat in a cafe near the window, reading. Two people at the next table were arguing loudly. At first, I tried to ignore them, but their voices kept rising. My mind wanted to step in, to calm them, but I stayed quiet and simply observed. One of them accused the other of betrayal, his face red with anger. The other listened, sipping coffee, saying nothing. At first, I thought he was losing. But then I saw it. The accuser began to stumble, his voice shaking without a fight to push against. It struck me how silence can be like a mirror. Without resistance, people are forced to face themselves. They often reveal more than they plan, sometimes even realizing they are wrong without you having to prove it. That's the power of not reacting. Later that day, I thought about my own life. How many times had I made things worse by jumping in too quickly? Words I couldn't take back. Actions I later regretted. If I had just paused, maybe I would have seen the bigger picture. I started practicing the pause. When emotions rise, I count slowly to 5 in my head before responding. It's enough to stop my ego from speaking first. Often, by the time I reach 5, the urge to react has already faded away. This pause works in any situation, at work, with family, even with strangers. It's like putting a lock on your mouth and letting your brain find the key. The more I used it, the more control I felt over my own life. I also realized that not reacting doesn't mean staying silent forever. It means choosing your moment. Sometimes, after the pause, I do speak, but with clarity, not emotion. The message is stronger when it comes from calm, not chaos. There's freedom in knowing you don't have to attend every emotional storm. You can watch the thunder from a distance without being struck by it. You can stay dry while others get soaked. That's not avoidance. That's wisdom. Some people try to provoke me, thinking my calmness meant I was weak. But I learned that real strength doesn't need to prove itself. It's like a mountain, unmoved by the wind, no matter how hard it blows. And each time I chose calm over reaction, I felt that mountain grow inside me. I began to trust myself more, knowing I could face storms without being swept away. That trust became my quiet, invisible shield. I left the cafe that day with a warm coffee and a new thought. Power isn't always about winning arguments. Sometimes, it's about refusing to enter them at all. And the peace you protect becomes your true victory. One evening, I got a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. It was full of criticism, blaming me for things long past. My first reaction was to type a long reply, defending myself point by point. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I stopped. I asked myself, what will this achieve? Will it heal anything, or just feed the fire? I deleted every word and closed the chat. The urge to reply was strong, but the relief I felt afterward was stronger. The next morning, I woke up lighter. I realized I hadn't wasted hours in a back and forth that would solve nothing. Not reacting had given me time and energy for better things. It felt like walking away from a trap before it shut. Our minds often confuse reaction with control. We think if we respond fast, we're taking charge. But true control is being able to decide whether to respond at all. That choice is where freedom begins. I began to see this in other areas of life. At work, when a project failed, some people rushed to blame others. I stayed quiet, listened, and then calmly suggested solutions. That silence made my voice carry more weight when I finally spoke. Silence also creates curiosity. People lean in to hear what you'll say when you don't speak right away. It gives you the advantage of timing, and in many situations, timing matters more than speed. Sometimes the best reply is no reply. It doesn't mean you're ignoring the problem. It means you're refusing to play the game on someone else's rules. You choose your own pace, your own ground. I learned to measure my responses like a precious resource. Each reaction costs energy, focus, and sometimes relationships. So I spend them carefully. I ask, is this worth the price? If not, I keep it in my pocket. The world is full of noise, arguments, opinions, provocations. If you react to all of it, you lose yourself in the chaos. But if you choose when to engage, you keep your mind clear and your heart steady. Now, when someone tries to provoke me, I picture a still lake. The calmer the surface, the clearer the reflection. I let their words ripple the water, but I don't let them create waves. Eventually, the surface returns to peace. And in that peace, I find something priceless, the ability to live on my own terms, untouched by the storms others carry inside them. That, to me, is the real victory of not reacting. One Saturday morning, I was waiting in a long line at the supermarket. A man behind me kept sighing loudly, muttering about how slow everything was. Then, without warning, he told me to move faster, as if I was the cause of the delay. My old self would have snapped back, pointing out that I was waiting just like him. But instead, I simply stepped aside and let him go ahead. He looked surprised, mumbled something, and pushed forward. I stayed calm, untouched. It wasn't about letting him win. It was about choosing my peace over a pointless argument. I would forget this moment in a day, but if I had reacted, I might have carried the irritation for hours. It wasn't worth it. I realized that many situations are like this, small annoyances that tempt us to give up our calm. And once you give it up, it's hard to get back. Protecting it is like guarding a flame from the wind. Not reacting is a form of self-respect. You tell yourself, I am worth more than this argument. My time and energy are too valuable to waste here. That mindset changes the way you move through the world. Of course, there are times when you must speak up, but speaking from calm is very different from speaking from anger. One builds bridges, the other burns them. The skill is knowing the difference before you open your mouth. I began keeping a small journal of moments when I stayed calm. Writing them down helped me see my progress. Each story was proof that I was no longer controlled by every emotion that passed through me. And slowly, I noticed something. People treated me differently. They spoke to me with more respect. They thought twice before trying to provoke me. My calm had become visible, and it commanded silent authority. This authority had nothing to do with fear. It came from consistency. People could see that I didn't get shaken easily, and that made them trust me more. Calmness became my quiet reputation. I started to think of every interaction as a choice. Give away my peace or keep it. Most days, I chose to keep it. And every time I did, I felt stronger, as if I was building a shield inside myself. That shield didn't make me cold or distant. It made me more present. Without the weight of constant reactions, I could focus on what truly mattered: the moments, the people, and the life I wanted to live. One late evening, I received a phone call from a friend who was upset. He began listing things I had supposedly done wrong months ago. His voice was tense, his words sharp. I could feel my own pulse quicken as I held the phone. In the past, I would have interrupted, defended myself, and matched his tone. But this time, I simply listened. I let him finish without adding fuel. When he stopped, there was a long silence. I calmly said, "I hear you." That short sentence changed the whole energy. His voice softened. He explained himself more clearly, and I realized his anger wasn't really about me. It was about stress in his own life. My calm had given him space to see it. This is another power of not reacting. It allows the truth to surface. When emotions aren't met with more emotions, the real issue often appears. You can't see the bottom of muddy water until it's still. I learned that not reacting doesn't only protect you. It can also help the other person. It gives them room to breathe, to think, to recognize their own feelings without being pushed into a fight. Of course, it takes patience. Sometimes you'll want to step in and fix things immediately. But silence can fix what words might break. Holding back is not doing nothing. It's doing something invisible but powerful. I started using this approach in small ways, with colleagues, family, strangers. The result was always similar. Conversations ended faster, emotions cooled, and solutions appeared more naturally than if I had forced them. It also taught me that many problems dissolve on their own if you stop feeding them attention. Not every situation needs your energy. Some only survive because you keep giving them space in your mind. The more I practiced, the more I felt a steady confidence inside me. I no longer feared confrontations because I knew I didn't have to lose control. My calm was my strength, and no one could take it unless I gave it away. And the best part was how peaceful my days became. Without the constant drain of unnecessary arguments, I had more focus, more creativity, more joy. I was finally living without being pulled into every storm around me. That night, after the call ended, I sat quietly and smiled. I hadn't won the argument, but I had won something better: the choice to stay calm and the ability to keep my peace intact. One afternoon in a busy office, a coworker loudly criticized my idea during a meeting. The words were sharp, almost mocking. I felt heat rise in my face, my mind already forming a defense. But I stopped, took a breath, and chose to listen instead. By not reacting instantly, I gave myself time to see his words clearly. Hidden inside his tone was actually a useful point I could improve on. If I had snapped back, I would have missed it entirely and turned the moment into a fight. This is why calm is a superpower. It gives you the distance to separate the message from the emotion. Anger clouds the truth, but silence clears the view. You can find gold even in criticism if you don't rush to defend your pride. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady. I thanked him for the feedback and added my own thoughts. The room relaxed. The tension disappeared. I realized I had turned a potential argument into a productive conversation. Not reacting doesn't mean being passive. It means being strategic. You choose the moment, the tone, and the energy you bring. Instead of being pulled into someone's storm, you invite them into your calm. Over time, people notice this difference. They see you as someone who doesn't get shaken by pressure. That trust opens doors to leadership roles, deeper relationships, and greater influence without shouting for attention. I also learned that reacting less saves more than energy. It saves dignity. You avoid words you might regret, and you carry yourself in a way that feels aligned with who you want to be, not just how you feel in the moment. Sometimes, people try to provoke because they want your reaction. It feeds them. But when you give nothing, their fire runs out of fuel. They either calm down or reveal their own weakness. Both outcomes cost you nothing. The more I practiced this, the more peaceful my mind became. Problems felt smaller, solutions felt closer, and my days no longer felt like battles I had to win. I was free from the constant need to prove myself. That freedom is addictive. Once you taste it, you start protecting it fiercely. You choose your words like gold, spend your energy like treasure, and walk away from anything that tries to steal your calm. In that meeting, I didn't just protect my idea, I protected my peace. And in the end, that was the real victory, because ideas can be rebuilt, but peace, once lost, is harder to recover. One day, while driving, Another car cut in front of me, so suddenly I had to brake hard. My hands tightened on the wheel, and for a moment I imagined honking, shouting, showing my frustration. But instead, I took a deep breath and let the car go. The truth is, reacting would not change what happened. It would only fill me with more anger and distract me from driving safely. By letting it go, I kept both my mood and my focus intact. The road stayed calm because I stayed calm. Life is full of cutoffs, like this, moments where someone blocks you, interrupts you, or disrespects you. You can either carry them with you all day or let them pass like clouds. Not reacting is how you keep the sky clear. I began to see that my peace was not just an emotion, it was a responsibility. If I gave it away too easily, I was the one allowing others to control my day. Protecting it became a daily practice, like locking a door at night. When I didn't react, something else happened. My body stayed relaxed. No racing heartbeat, no tense muscles. I realized how much physical energy I had wasted on anger in the past. Calmness is not just mental, it's physical freedom too. I also saw how quickly situations can change when you stay steady. Sometimes the other person realizes their mistake and softens. Other times, the moment simply ends, and you move on without damage. Both outcomes are wins. Not reacting also gave me more clarity in making decisions. Without the fog of frustration, I could think logically and choose the best response, or no response at all. This made me feel in control of my own life. Over time, I noticed my patience growing. Things that once made me angry barely touched me anymore. It wasn't that people stopped provoking me. It was that I stopped letting their actions decide my mood. Some might see this as indifference, but it's not. It's choosing where to invest energy. I can still care deeply, but I decide when and how to express it. That's the difference between reaction and response. That day on the road, I didn't win against the other driver, but I won against my own impulses. And that victory, though invisible to others, is the kind that shapes who you become in the long run. In the end, the road kept moving, the sky stayed clear, and I reached my destination in peace. No argument, no wasted energy, just calm. And that felt better than any horn or shout ever could. At a family dinner, a relative made a sarcastic comment about my life choices. Laughter followed from a few others. For a split second, my pride flared, ready to fire back with something sharper. But I simply smiled and took a sip of water. The table grew quiet for a moment. Without a reaction to feed on, the joke fell flat. The conversation moved on. Inside, I felt the familiar satisfaction of having protected my peace without starting a pointless family argument. Family situations can be tricky because emotions run deep. Old memories, unspoken tensions, all of it can explode over one careless comment. But not reacting keeps the focus on the moment instead of dragging the past into it. I've learned that you can't control what people say, even if they love you. But you can control how much space their words take up in your mind. Some comments don't deserve a room in your head, only a closed door. Sometimes, silence is more powerful than defense. When you refuse to engage, you quietly set a boundary. I won't fight here. That boundary teaches people how to treat you without you having to lecture them. It also gives you the chance to decide later if the issue is worth addressing calmly. Often, you realize it's not. The heat of the moment passes, and what felt urgent turns out to be nothing at all. In that dinner, my silence wasn't weakness. It was choosing the relationship over the argument. I valued the peace at the table more than proving myself right in front of everyone. Not reacting also keeps you from playing into someone else's story. If they want drama, don't audition for the role. You can exit the scene before it even begins, leaving them with a script and no co-star. The more I do this, the more I see how much lighter life feels. There's no need to rehearse comebacks in my head for hours. I can simply be present, enjoying the moments that actually matter. That night, as I left the dinner, I felt grateful, not for the comment, but for the control I had over my own emotions. That control is worth more than any quick reply could ever be. And slowly, it's becoming second nature. To choose calm over chaos, to hold peace like a fragile glass I refuse to drop, no matter how many times someone tries to shake it from my hands. One morning, in a team meeting, a coworker took credit for an idea I had presented privately the week before. My chest tightened, and I felt the urge to interrupt, to make sure everyone knew it was mine. But I stayed still and let him finish speaking. Instead of reacting in front of everyone, I waited until after the meeting. I calmly spoke to him in private, explaining how I felt. Without an audience, he admitted his mistake and offered to clarify things at the next meeting. That moment taught me an important truth. Not reacting publicly can give you more power privately. When you remove the performance, people often drop their defenses and speak more honestly. Reacting in the heat of the moment would have turned the situation into a public battle. The focus would shift from the truth to the drama. By waiting, I kept the respect of the room and handled the matter without unnecessary noise. It's not easy to stay silent when your pride feels attacked. But silence doesn't mean surrender, it means strategy. You choose the time, the place, and the manner of your response so it serves you, not your ego. I began noticing how much stronger my position was when I didn't rush to defend myself. People who knew my character trusted that the truth would surface, and it often did, without me having to force it. This approach also preserved relationships. I could address the issue without burning bridges, because I wasn't reacting from anger. Calmness allowed me to focus on fixing the problem, not punishing the person. The more I practiced, the more I saw how patience protects your reputation. In a world quick to argue, the one who stays composed stands out. Composure is magnetic. It draws respect without demanding it. That day in the office, I realized I had kept control in two ways: control over my emotions and control over the narrative. Both are worth more than the quick satisfaction of a public reaction. And each time I choose patience over pride, I feel that quiet strength grow. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to shout because it's rooted deep, unshaken by the momentary storms around it. By the next meeting, when my coworker corrected himself, I didn't feel the need to gloat. The truth had spoken for itself, and I had kept my peace intact, the best possible outcome for both my work and my mind. At a cafe, I overheard two strangers debating loudly about politics. One of them turned to me and asked for my opinion, clearly hoping I'd take his side. I felt the weight of their eyes, the tension in the air, and I knew my words could spark a fire. Instead of jumping in, I smiled politely and said, "I think you both have interesting points." Then I returned to my coffee. They looked surprised, almost disappointed, as if I had refused to join their battlefield. This is another power of not reacting. You don't have to fight every war you're invited to. Sometimes the best choice is to remain neutral, protecting your energy from battles that aren't even yours to begin with. Engaging in that moment might have drained me for the rest of the day. Instead, I left the cafe with my mind clear, my focus intact, and no lingering frustration from someone else's argument. That's a victory most people overlook. I've learned that many people try to pull you into their storms not because they care about your view, but because they want company in their chaos. By refusing to react, you protect yourself from becoming collateral damage. Not reacting also sends a silent message: I choose my battles. This makes people think twice before trying to provoke you in the future, because they realize you won't be an easy target for emotional games. It's not about avoiding all conflict. It's about knowing which ones are worth your energy. Some disagreements build understanding, while others only feed division. Wisdom is telling the difference before you speak. The more I practice this, the more I notice how peaceful my days have become. I no longer carry the weight of arguments that have nothing to do with my real goals or values. My mind has space for things that actually matter. Silence in these moments is not emptiness, it's a shield. It keeps you from getting hit by arrows that were never meant for you. It allows you to keep walking forward while others get stuck in place. That day at the cafe, I chose not to step into someone else's fire. And as I walked away, I realized my calm was worth far more than the temporary satisfaction of winning a debate that didn't belong to me. Every time I make that choice, I remind myself that my peace is my responsibility. No one can protect it for me, and no one can take it unless I hand it over. And I've learned to keep my hands closed. In the middle of a busy workday, I received an email that was clearly written in anger. The words were sharp, the tone impatient. My instinct was to reply immediately, to correct every accusation. But I decided to wait until my mind was calm. I closed the email and focused on other tasks. Hours later, I read it again. Without the heat of the moment, I saw that the problem was smaller than I first thought. My reply became shorter, kinder, and much more effective. Not reacting instantly gave me control over my tone. Instead of matching their frustration, I set the tone for the conversation. That shift turned what could have been a tense exchange into a cooperative one. I realized that time itself is a tool. Waiting even an hour can turn emotional noise into clarity. The mind processes differently when it's not under the weight of immediate reaction. Patience is a filter for better words. Sometimes, silence is not just about keeping your mouth closed. It's about pressing pause. It's creating space for the best version of you to respond instead of letting the worst version speak first. The more I used this method, the fewer regrets I had about my words. I no longer had to apologize for things said in anger because I didn't let anger lead my conversations in the first place. People also began to notice. They commented on how my messages and responses felt calm and measured, even in stressful moments. That kind of consistency builds trust faster than any big speech ever could. I learned that not reacting immediately doesn't mean ignoring the issue. It means addressing it with a clear head so the solution is stronger than the problem. That approach wins in the long run. The email that day could have sparked a chain of defensive replies, each more heated than the last. Instead, it became a short, respectful conversation that solved the problem in minutes. Walking away from my desk that evening, I felt lighter, not because everything was perfect, but because I had handled it without giving away my peace. That feeling is its own reward, one worth protecting every day. Now, whenever I feel the urge to fire back instantly, I remember that pause. It's not weakness to wait, it's preparation. And preparation always beats reaction in both life and in work. A tense email thread spiraled at work, pulling people into blame. My name appeared in bold, questioned without context. The urge to defend myself rose like fire in my chest. I paused, opened a blank note, and wrote the facts. Breathing slowly, I chose clarity over speed. In that pause, my mind cooled. I listed timelines, decisions, and outcomes without emotion. No, you always. No, I never. Just clean sequence and evidence. The story became simple again. Problems look bigger when emotions hold the camera too close. I drafted a short reply. Clear subject, 3 bullet points, 1 request. No defense, only data. I read it aloud to hear any heat hiding in the words. Finding none, I sent it. Then I stood up, drank water, and felt my shoulders release. Minutes later, the thread softened. A manager thanked me for the structure. Another person saw their own oversight and corrected it. No victory dance, no sarcasm from me. The goal was peace and progress, not points on a scoreboard. That moment taught me a quiet rule. If a message can be shorter, make it shorter. If it can be calmer, make it calmer. A cool tone invites logic. A hot tone invites war. Most issues aren't monsters. They're shadows made tall by light at the wrong angle. Outside of work, the same rule carried me. A neighbor complained about noise that wasn't mine. I listened, apologized for the stress, and offered a small fix. No argument. He softened, then apologized back. Not reacting turned walls into doors. I realized boundaries speak best when they're steady, not loud. I won't discuss this by text. Let's revisit tomorrow. I need 10 minutes. Short lines, strong lines. Not reactions, responses. They protect your energy without stabbing anyone. Some people still push, testing your calm like waves test a rock. That's fine. Rocks don't explain themselves to water. They just remain. Consistency is language. Over time, even the tide understands shape, and it learns where it cannot enter. When I fail, and I do, I reset fast. I write what I wish I'd said, breathe, and rehearse it once. Next time, it comes out right. Mastery is repetition without drama. The work is quiet, but the results echo through every room you enter. I now treat attention like currency. If something won't matter in a month, it gets a small budget today. If it feeds my future, it gets more. This simple audit keeps my reactions poor and my priorities rich. Peace becomes affordable again. Calm doesn't mean silence forever. It means choosing the right note at the right time. Sometimes it's no, sometimes it's not now, sometimes it's a full, warm yes. But it is never the reflex that steals tomorrow to satisfy today. That day ended with a sunset walk. No replaying arguments, no imaginary speeches. Just long breaths, tired feet, and a quiet pride that felt like strength. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stays, steady, useful, and free. Morning sunlight spilled into my room, warm and gentle. I thought about how different my life felt now. The noise of the world still existed. Impatient drivers, sharp words, unfair moments. but they no longer had the same power to pull me into their storms. Calm had become my anchor. I didn't need to win every argument, prove every point, or answer every provocation. I valued my time and energy too much to trade them for a moment of emotional satisfaction that would fade in hours. It's not that I never feel anger or frustration. I do. But now I let them pass like clouds across the sky. I acknowledge them, breathe, and choose my response. Some days that means speaking, other days it means silence. Both can be strength. People began to notice the difference. They came to me in tense situations, trusting I would stay composed. My calm became an unspoken signal, a safe space where problems could be solved without shouting or blame. Not reacting gave me more than peace. It gave me influence. People listen more to the one who doesn't speak often but chooses their words carefully. Every pause, every silence, adds weight to the moments you do decide to speak. Looking back, I realized I had not only learned to protect my peace, but also to protect my relationships. Without unnecessary conflicts, connections grew stronger. Respect replaced tension, and trust replaced fear. The world will always test you. Someone will always try to push your buttons, challenge your patience, or question your choices. But you choose whether to hand over control of your emotions. That choice is your true power. This journey wasn't about becoming cold or distant. It was about becoming steady, about building an inner shield so strong that no passing storm could shake me. Calm was not the absence of feeling, it was the mastery of it. If I could share one lesson from this path, it would be this. Your peace is yours alone. Guard it as you would guard something priceless. Once you give it away, it's hard to reclaim. Once you protect it, life feels lighter and more free. So now, I live with a simple rule. I don't react to everything. I choose my battles, my words, and my silences. I decide what deserves my energy and what doesn't. That choice has made me freer than I ever imagined. If you've listened this far, maybe you're ready to try it too. Start small, one pause, one silence, one choice not to react. Over time, those moments will build a stronger, calmer version of you, one you'll be proud to live as. And if this message stayed with you, protect it. Like your peace, keep it close. And if you believe others could use it too, share it, leave your thoughts, and join this space where calm is not weakness, but the ultimate strength.